I have a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
Definitely. My parents are so supportive, and that's kind of their motto is like, whatever's going to make you happy, whatever you're passionate about, that's what we're going to help you do. They had no reason really not to support it. And they just did everything they could. Like, my mom drove me into the city for every Broadway show, 8 shows a week. You face so much rejection, you kind of have to disconnect yourself from it anyway. I would say that I learned that being different was going to end up being what I liked most about myself.
What's up, my fellow dreamers, doers, achievers? This is episode number 24 of the Dream Big and Co podcast. And on this one, we have a special guest and someone who offers beautiful, deep, clear, and concise advice for all of you while also telling the amazing story that she has. And before we dive into that, explain that, and get into the episode, the quote for this episode is, "Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, worn, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every minute with love, grace, and gratitude." Dennis Waitley. And as for that quote, in relation to this topic and this conversation in episode number 24, Holly Taylor talks about just that. She talks about happiness. She talks about her humble roots, and she talks about being unique and being okay and being different and being who you are. And yes, beyond all the accolades, which I'll list off in a sec, Holly really dives into her parents' origin story and them coming to America, her at a young age being on Billy Elliot in Broadway, and then developing into this person of fame, but also extremely strong morals and character. You know, yes, she's at a certain pinnacle in her career and probably even will go further with other things, but to really understand the magnitude of her groundedness is the whole point here. And please, if you can do one thing, please take away the things she talks about, because she does an amazing job with that. And she also tells the great story she has with everything she's doing in life, everything she's been through. But some of the awards and nominations I want to list off, and some of the films and roles she's been and played in her experience, consist of the awards being Saturn Award for Best Performance by a Young Actor in a TV Series, and they were nominated for that. The Young Artist Awards, she was nominated for Best Supporting Young Actress in a TV Series. And then, as of recently, there was the Critics' Choice for Best Supporting Actress in a Drama, and the Golden Globes, The Americans, the show she's starring in, they won the Best Drama Series this year. And as for different TV roles she has, played and that encompass her career, they include, dating back all the way to 2012, The Cook, Ashley, Worst Friends, The Other World, We Still Say Grace, The Witch Flies, July, and just like I mentioned, The Americans, the TV drama series. So that is that. And please turn up the volume on your headphones or just on your phone or whatever you're listening to it on, just a tad. And please, please tune in and focus in to this episode with Holly Taylor, episode number 24. Let's go. All right, so we have a lot of ground to cover. There's so many things I want to touch on. But as you can hear in the background, I'm here with Holly Taylor.
Hi.
One of her roles in life alongside, was it Sharon Percy and Paige Jennings?
Yeah.
That you played?
Mm-hmm.
But with you, I really want to start with like where you grew up and like your origin story, talking about like your mom. You said she ended up fleeing Ireland because of like family problems. Like, Can you really talk about the fact of like your parents growing up and then coming to America?
Yeah, well, my mom, like you said, she grew up in Ireland, was born and raised there, and just had a really tumultuous family life. I mean, kind of like what you see in movies, like a horrible situation. And it's just one of those things where you're born into that small town and you're surrounded by that kind of negative family life, it becomes normal to those people and it becomes a pattern. And you start that again for your family, and then your kids start that again for their family. And my mom, thankfully, was strong enough to be able to say, I don't want to continue this path. I want to make something new for myself and my name. And she got away from it. And she moved to England. That's where she met my dad. But my dad was born and raised in Scotland. Mm-hmm. But they had both moved to England and were working together there. And they got married. And that was the start of my mom's
What work did
life.
they do together there?
I think they were working in some kind of textile factory because my mom was working on sewing machines and my dad still works in textiles. So I think he was like the boss there or something, in charge of that. And then my mom says like he held open the door for her and she was just like, I'm going to marry him. And that was it.
Love at first sight. Yeah, that's amazing.
Cute.
But that's what I wanted to touch on eventually. Like, where did you get, because you have this like subtle confidence and like courage in a way, if what I've seen. And I'm sure you got that from your mom, because that's amazing to be able to like stand up and leave like that. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I think people don't understand how strong you have to be to get out of, domestic violence or things like that. People are always like, why don't they just leave? And it's not that easy. You have your children to worry about. You have your future to worry about, your safety. For somebody to actually get up and get out of that is really inspiring. And she sets the bar pretty high for me.
Yeah. And I wanted to, so at a young age, you were into dancing, right? And what, like, was that just like your first interest? And what got you started into just like pursuing something? Yeah,
well, I was always like dancing around the house, my parents say. So like our neighbor was signing up their daughter for dance classes and my parents were like, okay, we'll just try it. And then I was like obsessed. Like I always wanted to be at dance class. And at 3 years old, I told my parents, I was like, I'm going to be on Broadway. Yeah. And they were like not even sure what Broadway was. But somehow it happened. And I think I didn't even know what Broadway was at that point. Like, it was just kind of a silly dream. Like, people are like, I'm going to be on Disney Channel. But mine was like Broadway.
Like, I want to be an astronaut or something.
Yeah. So, I did that, and then I changed dance schools, and the owner of the dance studio, posted, advertisements for open call auditions for Broadway shows. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I went and I got some callbacks for things, and then eventually I got Billy Elliot.
Yeah. So, like, just to put that into context, your parents coming over to America and then you saying at a young age, I want to be on Broadway, that's like if I were to move to a different country and be like, hey, Mom, I want to play cricket or something. Yeah. Like, it's so out of the blue. That's wild.
Yeah, they didn't know what I was talking about. They were just like, okay, whatever you say.
Yeah, and was it always, because I'm sure this is a fact, but they probably always wanted you to be happy. So even though it was something they didn't know about, were they very for it and just okay with you pursuing that and did whatever it took to like sacrifice to elevate your career?
Definitely. My parents are so supportive, and that's kind of their motto is like, whatever's going to make you happy, whatever you're passionate about, that's what we're going to help you do, which backfired on them when my brother wanted to join the Marines and they said no, and he was like, well, this is what's going to make me happy, so you can't say no. But like for me, thankfully I picked a safer career, I hope. So they had no reason really not to support it. And they just did everything they could. Like, my mom drove me into the city for every Broadway show, 8 shows a week, from school.
8 shows a week? Mm-hmm. Wow.
While I was going to middle school, while she was working overnight. And so she, like, never slept for, like, 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then my dad commuted from here to Montreal for work every week for 7 years.
To Montreal? Wow.
Yeah, like he would go to Montreal from New Jersey every Sunday night or Monday morning, and then every Friday night he would come back to New Jersey.
Yeah, okay. So was there not a lot of seeing your family that much, or was it, were you guys all doing your own thing?
Yeah, but I was, like, my brother I didn't see a lot because he was in Afghanistan for quite a bit of, like, my adolescence. And then my mom, I was with 24/7. I still kind of am with her 24/7. But my dad, having like working in a different country for 7 years, that was kind of hard. Like just seeing him on the weekends and stuff. But it never felt like there was an absence there, you know, just because he was still so supportive and present, even from, you know, a long distance place, that it didn't feel like there was a separation really.
Yeah. I feel that though with driving in, like I'm sure your mom and you bonded a lot. Like when I went to private school, I had to drive almost 45 minutes one way to get to school, and I would have to get driven by my parents or my grandpa. And there was just like such a strong bond that we formed because we used to talk just the entire car ride.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it's a great way to get to know people is being in the car, because if you don't talk, it's just awkward.
It's awkward as
so
hell.
You're kind of forced to like make conversation out of nothing.
Yeah. So you were in Billy Elliot. How was that? You were in that for 2 years, correct?
Yeah.
So did that, because I know you said you were young, you were pretty shy, but did that cause you to like break out of that shell that you were maybe in?
Not at all.
No,
I was
really?
still
Okay.
so shy when I was in Billy Elliot. Like my character had to be really full of herself, and I didn't understand that if it was acting, because I was like, I don't want the people in the audience to think that I'm full of myself. Like I can't do it. And they had to like pull it out of me. And I still probably wasn't doing a good enough job. I mean, I really got Billy Elliot because of my dancing ability.
Okay.
And then the acting and the singing kind of like followed after.
Gotcha.
But it was like after Billy Elliot that I started to come out of my shell more, because I started doing more acting classes. And the first acting class I did, the coach after came up to me and he was like, I thought you were so arrogant because of how shy you were. He thought that I just thought that I was better than everyone, so I didn't want to talk to people, when really it was the complete opposite. I was so terrified to be there, and like I felt so inferior to everyone, like that I just was so scared to talk, and I'm still like that sometimes. So
yeah, I was gonna ask, is it still like that with having this limelight where you are now? I know you're playing like a huge role in The Americans, which we'll get to, but is like, as your like sort of fame grows, is it more of like being more internal and like spending more time with family or being with those close to you to not like be external more, or no? How is that?
I mean, to me, it doesn't really feel any different because my life, like living in New Jersey and going to school, is so distant from my job that I almost don't really feel like the same person when I'm at home as when I'm at work. And like, I don't really talk about my job when I'm at home and stuff. Like, I just like to be very normal, I guess.
Yeah. I'm
so,
sure that humbles you, like being home and like going to college and like having close friends that probably ground you.
Yeah, and I mean, when I go to school, like, nobody cares who I am. Like, nobody even knows most of the time that I was on a TV show. Like, half of my friends at school right now, if they heard this, would have no idea what I'm talking about. So, which I like, because then I know that they're friends with me for me, and not because they think they can get something out of me that they can't, because I really have no connections.
Yeah. There was one quote, I was listening to an interview that you had, and you said, I want people to know my work ethic comes first. I don't want any free room to slack off, which is like one thing I really admire about you.
Thanks.
So that's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. But going back to it, how is like developing yourself in the role of like Paige and being in the Americans and like just developing as a person there?
I think it was really challenging for me because it was my first big like acting role. And I still was struggling with the separation between like Holly and the character, and not understanding that whatever I like mold the character as is different from who I am, and people are gonna understand that, because I was getting a lot of like hate and like death threats even from the Americans, just because my character was the teenage girl. And immediately you see a teenage girl and you're like, she's annoying, get rid of her. You know, people just don't have time for it. So people like literally sent me tweets saying they wanted me to die, or like be crushed up into a suitcase, or like sent to Russia. Just like horrible things to say to a 16-year-old girl, that I was like, it made me start to hate the character myself sometimes, because I would like read a script ahead of time and be like, I know the audience is going to hate this. Like, I'm going to get so much like mean comments about it. But then you have to learn to separate the two. And also my character was really sad for a while, and her life was kind of horrible anyway, so it's understandable. But I had a hard time separating that from my real life, because like I'd be on set crying for 12 hours in a row and then have to go to school and be like everything's fine the next day.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you really have to train yourself to do, is separate, because like when you're crying that much, your body doesn't know that it's a fake cry. Your body thinks she's upset, like recovery mode, you know, and you kind of go into yourself. So you have to train yourself to separate them. Yeah,
I was going to ask, like, what do you do to, like, rejuvenate yourself? Because I know you go through a lot. Like, you have a rigorous schedule. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to sort of hit the refresh button for yourself?
I guess just spending time at home with my family, with my boyfriend. I guess exercising.
Yeah.
Dancing, boxing, yoga, any of that kind of like helps me recenter myself. There you go.
Yeah.
See?
Do you meditate at all?
Yeah, I did for a while, and then I kind of stopped because my free trial was over on the app I was using, to be honest. But I try and do it myself sometimes. Like, you know the body meditation you do where you just kind of tune into like each part of your body, like you're filling it with light? I try and do that sometimes just so I feel more in tune with myself. Not to sound like cheesy, but it works, you know? It's crazy things like that sound so kind of stupid in a way, you know? Like when you first hear it, you're like, okay, really? You're spending your time doing that? But once you do it, you're like, you feel such a drastic difference.
Yeah, you think it's like cutting down on your efficiency, but it actually improves it because you take a step back.
Yeah.
Like, that's what people don't realize, yeah.
I mean, I love anything that I can do or think about that makes me feel small and reminds me like how insignificant I am.
I love that.
I kind of like putting myself into an existential crisis sometimes because it just puts everything in perspective.
Yeah. Like you try to diminish the ego as much as possible.
Yeah.
Is it because like you're like fame is cool and all, but you're more of like, I want to say this one quote because I love this as well, but you said, I never aim to be a famous actress. I just want to be successful, and to me, that's not equivalent to fame.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a highlight to that.
Yeah, and the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing that, because I see famous people and how they can't even, like, go to the grocery store. They can't go anywhere without being harassed. And I mean, sometimes it's great because those, like, sometimes it's real fans who are coming up to you, and they're the people that are making you successful. So you have to stop and give them the time. But other times it's people who just want your autograph so they can sell it on eBay or something. And I mean, I don't get that as much because I'm not that famous. So thank God. But like, I'm realizing that I really don't want that, and I appreciate my privacy and my humble little nothing like.
Yeah. I think that's so important because a lot of people, they always, and I want to actually ask you a question about this, like for everyone that wants to achieve something, like they have this end point, like, oh, if I'm successful, I'm going to do this. But for you, you just kind of like rolled into it, and it was just something you loved and pursued. And can you in some type of way just like emphasize the point that it's just the process and just being present throughout the process and not like striving for something more in a way and not like trying to reach a success point?
Yeah. You know? I mean, it's relevant to everything in life. It's like when someone's so lonely and they want a partner so badly, and someone's like, it's going to come to you and you're not looking for it. That's what everything is in life. And for me, that's what happened with acting. Like The Americans, I wasn't looking for that. I auditioned for it and completely forgot about it because you face so much rejection, you kind of have to disconnect yourself from it anyway. And it was right after I just got over, like, I kind of had a breakdown with my mom because I was living in LA for a year, and I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. And it seemed like everyone around me was moving forward, and I was just stuck in the same place. And, like, I would get callbacks for things, and I'd be brought into producer sessions and director sessions, which is, like, the final step before you get the part. And then I still wouldn't get it, but my friend would. And it was like I didn't understand what else I could do. You know, it was like, I'm trying my best, I'm preparing, I'm studying, I'm going to acting classes, like, I know all my lines, I have everything, but it's still not enough. But it's not that. Like, once you get into that mind frame, that's when you stop yourself and you hinder yourself from any progress. Yeah, like, that's something that I think we're all still learning constantly, is like comparing yourself to other people is never going to be helpful. I mean, it can in a healthy way if you're just trying to better yourself and you want to maybe match someone else's goal or try and exceed theirs. But when it comes to be like derogatory and you're like, how come I'm not like that, and you're asking those kinds of questions, that's when it's not going to help anybody. You know, it's not helping the person you're comparing yourself to, and it's not helping you. So there's no point in repeating that.
And I actually want to touch on that, to go back a sec, about the rejection. Like, was it an abundant amount of rejection before you got like certain roles, and how important? Because there was this one TED talk, I believe it was like 100 days of rejection. And the guy literally went through 100 days of just getting rejected every single day, and he said it taught him like so much about being grateful and like about himself. I mean, that's pretty much what any like acting especially, but I guess lots of things in life are like that. But it's like, at least in the real world, I guess, when you go on a meeting for a job or an interview, you kind of get an answer back, you know, or hopefully you get some feedback, like, you weren't hired because of this reason, this needs to be stronger. In acting, you don't get any of that. You're just rejected, and you don't know why. You go into the room, you read for them, and they're like, okay, great, and then you leave, and that's it. You never hear from them again, and you don't know if there's something you could have done better. You don't know if it was your look that was wrong. It's like taking a test and not even getting a grade back. That's how it is for every single audition you go on. And like, I've auditioned for like, I don't know, like 15 things in the past 3 weeks, and I haven't heard back from any of them. Like, it doesn't matter what stage you're at, you're still going to face that rejection all the time. And now it's like to the point where I audition for something and it completely goes out of my mind. Like, my mom used to get a little caught up in it because, you know, like, you care about your kids so much, and she'd be like, oh, I wonder if we're going to hear back from this audition, like, from 2 weeks ago, and I'd be like, already forgotten what it was for. And so now she's kind of learned to do the same thing, because otherwise you just get caught up in your own head. I want to touch on one quote, and then I'm going to ask you a separate question, but I know I keep pulling out quotes, but it's just like, your story and everything you say is really, I think, gems, and I want people to really extract this stuff to like take forward. So
thank you.
You said, not to dull down on it too much, I'm going to say it, but I think I've always been a perfectionist and expected a lot out of myself. Even right now, I feel like I'm not doing enough, and I constantly need to be doing more and improving myself. If I didn't try my best at everything I do, I would not be able to sleep at night. So it's just that constant progression, which I love. But to talk about that progression, like, what is one thing since you were in Billy Elliot to now, like one or two things you really learned about yourself, if you can pinpoint something? Ooh. So like, I know it's a deep question, but if there's like one thing you can write a letter to your younger self, just being like, all right, this is what you could do better, or like, this is what I learned.
I would say that I learned that being different was going to end up being what I liked most about myself. And I think that when I was in middle school, it was what I like hated about myself, and I couldn't fit in with like the cool kids. And like, even now, like when I'm around like cool people, I have like such a hard time making conversation, because I'm not in the same mind frame as them. And it's not a good or a bad thing, but it's just that I'm in a different place, and I've lived such a different life. And I see things differently, that it's like turned out to be my strong suit, because it makes me unique when I go to like a new acting job, and people are like, oh, like she's a breath of fresh air, because I'm not like a Hollywood kid, but at the same time I'm not like a typical Wayne kid, you know what I mean? So it kind of helps me just to get through things and see them in a different perspective. And it also helps me to help my friends, because, you know, I have a different viewpoint from them. If they need advice or something, I'm not just giving them the same thing that they're already thinking in their head. But being different is such a strength. And I think the sooner you realize that when you're younger, and it's really hard to realize, but the sooner you figure it out, the more it's going to help you.
And I think it goes back to that point of like comparing yourself. Like, there's no reason to do that when you already know you're different. So just embrace that in a way.
And I think even the people who do seem like they fit in with the cool crowd, and, you know, they are just the people that you aspire to be, they feel different too. And they have their own issues, and they're comparing themselves to the next person. Like, sometimes I delete Instagram off my phone all the time, because it's so toxic to be on 24/7. But like, when you're on it, that's all you do is compare yourself to people, because no one's posting like, had a terrible day today, here's me looking fat in my bathing suit. You know, they're posting like their best picture, they're posting their Photoshop picture, they're posting an amazing accomplishment that happened to them, and that's great, but that's not their whole life. And it's like, that person that you're thinking, how come I'm not as great as them, is thinking the same thing about the next person. It's like, nobody has it as great as you think they do.
that is one of the things I had started to talk about with you, because I've really been getting into like empathy, open-mindedness, and understanding, and to realize like if you're a billionaire or you're just an average mom taking care of 2 kids, or you're Holly Taylor going through whatever, like everyone is on their own like wavelength and path.
Yeah.
And to like really tap into that and understand that, if everyone can do that, that's going to be something special.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like we have such a hard time understanding problems because they're relative. I mean, there's like I saw something on Twitter the other day where people were getting mad at like Kim Kardashian because she was saying that like Khloe had to go to work to support her children, and everyone was like, she doesn't have to go to work, like she's part of one of the richest families in America, like some of us actually do need to go to work and need the paycheck. And it's like, okay, I understand that, but at the same time, if they didn't go to work, they wouldn't have that money. Like that's the reason that they have it, because they put themselves out there and do their own thing. So it's like you can waste your time getting mad at people for things like that, or you can just realize that we all have our own problems. They're all on a different scale, but they're still problems, and you're still valid in feeling how you do about them.
Yeah. I posted something recently. It was just about how everything's internal, and like we're all going through that. Yeah. So I really love this topic. But going back to that one thing, like we talked about the one thing you learned, can you talk about like maybe one type of mantra you're living by as of recently, or maybe one thing that's been on the surface in terms of like realizations that you've been like leveraging in a way? If you want to talk about that?
I mean, it's kind of basic, but my main mantra for the past like 2 or 3 years is just to be present, because like I've learned from my mom, because she spends so much time getting caught up in the future, which is a great thing because a lot of times she helps me remember things that I'm not thinking about yet. But at the same time, I see her get so stressed out about it. And so it's helped me learn through watching her how valuable it is to just be in the moment. And it's the same thing going back to rejection and everything. If I was thinking about what I did in the past and why I wasn't rejected, or what am I going to be doing in the future, you know, like what job am I going to get next, I'm just going to be in a constant state of anxiety.
Yeah. So to talk about that, do you have like, are you a goal setter? Like, do you have 5-10 year goals, or is it just more of maybe you have an estimate of where you want to be and it's let's be present throughout the journey to get there?
Yeah, I think I'd love to be a goal setter because I see things about how good it is to be one all the time. And, you know, you see those articles that are like, make a dream board, or, you know, like write down your goals. And I totally get that. And I kind of wish that I did it. But at the same time, I have no idea where I want to be.
It's gotten you pretty far. So
yeah.
It's fine. It's whatever works best for you.
Like, and that's the reason I'm still going to school and stuff, because I don't know if I want to be an actress forever. I don't know if I don't want to be an actress forever. So I'm just kind of taking things as they come and working hard at what I can in the moment, and I don't know, seeing if where it gets me.
Yeah. And then I really wanted to talk about this one thing, because your parents have sacrificed and done a lot for you.
Yeah.
When you first got some type of like reward or pay from the Americans, the first thing you did, was it you paid down the mortgage on your family's house and like you gave back to them, or am I wrong?
No, that was a bit later, because I definitely didn't earn enough at first to do that. But like, I mean, when you're under 18 and you're working in show business or whatever, you have to have your like trust fund and your Coogan account, which so that way your parents can't touch it, because there are crazy backstage parents who would just take all their kids' money. So you have a portion of it that's separated into a locked account until you're 18, when you can access it yourself. But thankfully my parents were never crazy people and they didn't try and steal all my money. But at the same time, I appreciated that without them, I wouldn't have any of it at all. Like without my mom driving me into the city, taking me to auditions, taking me to dance class, without my dad working in a different country for 7 years, like I wouldn't have any of the opportunities I do. And that was something that was brought up in an interview that my mom told the interviewer, and I was kind of upset with her for saying, because I just wanted it to be between us, but now it's out there. So
now it's out there on the web.
Yeah, but I don't know, everything that my parents do, they work so hard, and it's been such a struggle for them. And you see so many stories now about like immigrants in this country and how hard they have to work, and how hard it is just to be documented legally. Like it took my parents so long to get citizenship. but they did it the right way, and they got it eventually, and now they have what they need to. But it's still like my dad's working in an industry that's pretty much went to China. Like, there's so many few jobs here for him. Like, thankfully, he's finally gotten a job in New Jersey, but it's still really hard. And, like, they just don't have the things that I think they deserve. So I wanted to help them out to be a little more comfortable with that.
That's so beautiful. I think that's, like, my goal. I'm sure it's a lot of people's goals to be able to do that, to give back to their parents like that. Like, that's really special. I'm sure the reaction was like blown out of the water from that.
Yeah,
a lot of tears.
They were happy, but I still think that there's more that I could do for them. So I hope in the future, if I get another like steady job like the Americans, I'll be able to help them out again.
Yeah, and then sort of like pulling the conversation away from like this topic. I know I'm sure everyone knows from listening to you, like you're very focused on things outside of just the realm of acting and all of that. So can you talk about like one of the things you want to do in the future with just like anything? I believe one of the things was opening some type of pet shelter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
That's pretty much my life goal. Like if we're talking about goals, that is my one goal that I have, is to open up an animal sanctuary, some plot of land, whether it's in like Sussex County or Pennsylvania or Utah, wherever, and just rescue animals, especially pit bulls, because they're discriminated against. And then I want to hire veterans to work there because, like I said, my brother's a veteran. And when you come home, it's hard to find work. And especially if you're going to therapy because you have symptoms of PTSD or things like that, then you're sometimes red flagged in the system. And you can't get jobs working in the public because you're considered a danger to them, which isn't fair because they're going to therapy to better themselves.
I'm sure I'm realizing this, like them working with the pets too would actually help them.
Exactly.
If they had that as well.
Well, that's why I want to do it, because it's like providing them with a job. Yes, like economically it's helping them, but also now mentally and physically and emotionally you're being helped, because I volunteered at the animal shelter in Wayne for a couple years, and that helped me get through some stuff, you know? Like, when I felt like I didn't have anyone here, like, I'd go to the shelter and the animals would help me. Or, like I have 3 cats at home because I'm a crazy cat lady. Yeah. And, like, just, like, coming home to them every now and then is, like, they're, like, therapeutic to me. And I've seen it work for my brother, too. Like, one of my cats, like, saved him in a way. Like, no one could pull out of him, like, his authentic self after he went to war except for my cat, you know? Wow. And, like, seeing that transformation in him just from this little tiny ball of fur, like, what that can do for somebody. And then it also helps the animal. And then the animals are being exposed to people and learning to be friendly and then getting adopted and getting happy homes. So it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then is that like your big dream? Because the one thing we usually wrap back in a way is like, what is your big dream, whether it's personally, professionally, whatever, and like what steps are you taking to get there? So is it that or is it something else?
Yeah, my big dream is to have that sanctuary, and then it's also just to be happy. And I think that I'm making steps to get there every day, just in decisions I make for myself and choosing what I do want to do, what I don't want to do, what's going to make me a better person, what's not really going to add any value to my life. Being able to differentiate between those is what I hope is going to keep me on that path. Yeah,
and I hope that people, and I'm sure they've gotten it out from this conversation, that they prioritize or have a goal to like focus on being happy and not successful in a way, you know what I mean? Like not trying to be famous or rich, but more so happy.
Yeah, because there's so many people who focus on just that material aspect of it, and then they get it and they have nothing else to show for it, and they're miserable because now they have all this money, but you don't have someone that you care about to spend it with. You don't have a cause that you care about to donate it to. You have this huge house, but like who's going to fill it? Who's going to make it happy for you? Who's going to add memories to it? Or just like experiences in general, you know? It's like those are the things that fulfill your life, because you can't take any of this with you. Which is something I have to learn because I'm very cheap. Like with myself, like I hate spending money on myself or just on things in general. But I have to keep reminding myself, like, you can't take it with you because the tax man will take it if you don't spend it. So might as well make some investments.
I love that. Yeah. I was going to say something, but I just let's keep it with that. But if there's anything else that you would want to say for anyone listening, or if you just want to end it here and maybe highlight the social media or anything, whatever you want to end it with.
Yeah. I guess if I were to highlight all of what we said, it was just to focus on the present and doing things that you want to do and appreciating the people around you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's Holly Taylor. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. What's up, everyone? Thank you for listening, and don't press that pause button yet. A couple of things to say here. And the first, I would just like you to really zone in and focus in on what Holly is doing. Not only what she is saying is crucial, beneficial, and insightful for you, but look at what she is doing. Look at her journey, her progress, her process, because she really does an amazing job, and she's a great example for those going through something or currently achieving their aspiration. So both sides to the coin. And then one thing we truly, truly want to highlight is, yes, we always say follow our social media at Dream Big & Co. on everything, but please, please check out our YouTube. We recently came out with a new featured film called A Spotlight, and we gave the spotlight to a dear friend of mine, Mir Vyas, in which he is a young, aspiring bodybuilder. He has a lot of grand ambitions and big aspirations, and he's doing and taking the action steps to get there. So we profiled his story. He did an amazing job. It came out beautiful, and I hope you like it just as much as we did. But all in all, if you would like to reach out to us, email us, message us, do whatever you can to get in touch with us, please do. Let us know how you like this episode, if you like what we're doing, if you want to get involved in any way. And like always, we will see you on the next episode.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.